Chess has been the key ingredient in my rehabilitation process and my proactive thinking and my discipline to say that I'm not going to go back to where I once came from.
Welcome to One Move at a Time, the show where we highlight people and organizations that are advancing our U.S. Chess mission statement to empower people, enrich lives, and enhance communities through chess. I'm Dan Lucas, the Senior Director of Strategic Communication at U.S. Chess, and my guests today are Director of Prison Outreach, Tony Ballard, Secretary of Corrections, Jeff Zmuda, and Captain Kevin Oneth. First up is Tony Ballard, who was named the statewide coordinator by Secretary Zmuda, along with being an official U.S. Chess tournament director for each of their events through the Gift of Chess, a 501c3 charitable organization transforming lives through our universal language of chess. They distribute chess sets globally, leveraging chess as a low-cost, high-impact catalyst for opportunity. Their key initiatives include education, prison, and refugee outreach. Under the leadership of Tony Ballard, the Gift of Chess looks to expand access to chess sets, chess programs, and chess educational materials for those incarcerated across the USA and beyond. Currently, the Gift of Chess reaches over 250 jails and prisons across the United States. Tony Ballard, welcome to the One Move at a Time podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Dan? Thank you for having me. We at the Gift of Chess are such appreciative of this opportunity to get our story out there to the world and help people to understand just how important it is to get chess in prisons and jails nationwide, if not globally at some point, to where they can learn the essential tools that you can learn from chess and apply to your life.
Well, I love when people have a great opening when I didn't even have to give them a question. so great. Yeah. Well, so before we get into the chess, talk a bit about your personal history and why you are in the Kansas correctional system.
Well, unfortunately, I grew up in a very bad neighborhood coming out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The north side is full of crime, drugs, and poverty. And as a result of that, being from a single parent home, very early I started committing crimes to take the heavy burden off my mother, providing for two boys that she couldn't do on her own. And that meant that I would go to grocery stores, clothing stores, swimming pools that was far out, and I would steal groceries and bring it back home. And I would steal clothes and bring it back home for my brother and I. And I also would go out to these swimming pools where the rich neighborhoods were, and I would steal the shoes of the other kids so that me and my brother could have shoes. And over time, what that did is it allowed me to have to become desensitized to crime and to committing those types of acts. And it just got bigger and bigger, and to the point to where I mentally thought that the means justified the ends, and that wasn't the case. And so as I got older into my adulthood, I still committed crime, but I committed a crime when I was 22, and I was always a good student in school. My teachers loved me, they liked me. I made good grades. I was a heck of an athlete, but I ended up getting a college scholarship, and before I even got off to reported to campus on the football scholarship, I committed a charge of robbery, and that wound me up in prison for 4 years. And when I went to prison for 4 years as a very naive young man at 18, I was just encompassed around by a lot of hardened criminals, a lot of men who had been there 20 plus years already, and they celebrated manipulation. They celebrated taking advantage of others. They celebrated anything that was criminally minded. And so they took me in and basically schooled and mentored me in that school of negativity. And when I was released at the age of 22, even though I was writing home, I still had the support of my counselors from school, my football coaches, and my family. Even though I was writing home telling them that I was doing well and I was changing, the truth of the matter was I was not. And 6 months, I got out, I walked onto the football team, and 6 months later, I was back into the life of crime. And what ended up happening a few years later, I committed a charge of attempted first-degree murder where I was assaulted. I was selling drugs, and I was assaulted by some guys that wanted to rob me, do me some harm. I retaliated, and by the grace of God, I fired a shot and I missed the gentleman, thankfully, and no one was hurt, harmed, or injured as a result. But I was still convicted of attempted first-degree murder and given 25 years in prison. And this is where I am today, on the back end of that 25-year sentence.
Right, because right now you're at a work release program, correct?
Yes, I'm in the best position you could possibly be in as an incarcerated individual in the state of Kansas. I'm in Wichita Work Release Facility. We get our own cell phone. We pay our own cell phone bills. We do our own grocery shopping at Walmart. We get to go to an area local gym where we can work out. We get to go out into the community quite a bit and be responsible, be trusted to do those things. So it's almost a halfway reentry facility.
And when did you first learn to play the game of chess?
Well, I first learned to play the game of chess when I was probably 12 years old. I was in a group home and I seen the game, and there was a whole bunch of other games like Connect Four, tic-tac-toe, checkers, things like that, that the boxes was just old and worn from people playing them so much, but that chess board was just a brand new box, still had the plastic on it. People didn't even play it or mess with it. But I was the one that said, what is this all about? And so I grabbed the chessboard up, opened it up, and we just figured it out from there. But what made me get better is that I met some older adults who were staffs at the group home, and I was watching them play, and I just learned just by watching. And the more and more I watched, the better I got at understanding how the moves went. One of my first successes were the scholars made, learning how to do that. But, also playing on computers there at the school. They had computers where you can plug in the chess program. But once I got out of those facilities, I resorted back to, either playing basketball, football, or anything other than playing chess. It was only when I found myself incarcerated in jail, juvenile facilities, and they had the board game there that I would take the opportunity to sit down and play games, and it helped me to pass my time by.
So you started playing chess in prison almost immediately? Is that what I'm hearing?
So, yeah, I would say I almost started playing chess immediately once I got reincarcerated for this long amount of time. I realized that I found a lot of joy in it. And even though I wasn't that good, because I met people that was in lockdown and in segregation in prison that was a whole lot better than me. They had been playing the game for a long, long time. And I had this fiery competitive spirit within me to win, and I would get beat up on all the time. And, growing up, it was always, a negative connotation if you read books or if you was a bookworm or that sort. So I didn't let anybody know, but I secretly began checking out books from the library, chess books. And I started learning openings and end-game strategy, middle game tactics, and I started applying those to my games. And the more that I learned, the better my game got and the more success I had against my opponents down there.
Do you happen to remember the titles of any of these books that were particularly influential?
I read so many books over the years. I can't remember any titles specifically right off. I had a feeling that you would ask me that. I've been asked that quite a bit, but I can remember most of the authors. Some of the authors was named, I think there was a Shabalov, Bruce Pandolfini. Who else? There's quite a few. I just can't remember the names of those right off. But there was different openings that I learned. The Rue Lopez opening, the Accelerated Dragon from the Sicilian, the London system, the Stonewall, the Corey system, things of those sources, the books that I've read. I have tons of books right now, and I couldn't tell you the authors of most of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I've gone back and I looked at a lot of things that you've written on the Gift of Chess website. And one thing you wrote that really stood out to me was, and I'm quoting here, "I developed skills that I see now will benefit me for the rest of my life." Could you kind of detail what those skills are?
So the skills that I learned that benefit me for the rest of my life, there's several, but critical thinking skills, being able to look at a situation and assess it critically, looking for opportunities, looking for weaknesses, looking for threats, looking for strengths. And it's akin to a SWOT analysis where you look at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But those critical thinking skills, just planning and strategizing, that's a big key to help me to get where I'm at today. If it wasn't for my goal setting and putting things in order, that's what chess helps me to do. It helps me to organize my thoughts, helps me to organize my plans. And so if it wasn't for chess, I probably would still be disorganized a lot. I wouldn't be as structured as I am today. I wouldn't be as focused as I am today because there are a lot of distractions in prison. And those distractions can get you off course. It can cost you a whole lot. But if you remain focused and concentrated on the goals that you've set, you can attain a lot because there are a lot of opportunities, but it takes that critical thinking to really critically analyze your situation and find those opportunities that present themselves. There are many opportunities that are there for us inside of prisons that we can take advantage of, but also creativity. You have to learn how to be creative, and that's what chess taught me as well. Learn how to be creative in order to take advantage of those opportunities that present themselves. Taking a creative approach. Sometimes it's not a rule or policy or procedure that blatantly says that you can do this or that as a privilege. But if you can come up with a creative way in order to make it a policy, make it a procedure that it would allow you to have that privilege, then there's an opportunity that you've actually created for yourself. So it's just being creative, critical thinking, strategizing, goal setting, problem solving is a big key. Being able to solve problems. I've learned that chess is a big puzzle, and it has a lot of contraptions, configurations, and just equations that you have to calculate precisely, apply the correct solution in order to get past that problem. And in many ways, I'll go to sleep at night pondering on a chess game, dreaming about it. What could I have done in that situation? And so I take that same strategy, I take that same scenario situation, and I apply it in my life. I lay in bed at night that a problem has presented itself, and I look for a solution. I think about it. I probably go to bed dreaming about a solution. And by the time I wake up in the morning, I most likely will have a solution to the problem. So I'm sure anybody who's played chess can attest to, going to sleep thinking about a game or dreaming about it, trying to figure out what you should have done in that situation or that position. And it's the same way in life, I think everyone at the end of their day should assess how their day went, should assess their wins, should assess their losses, or should assess what advantages they could have taken, or like I did in chess, I began to do it in my life, and I do that every night.
Mm-hmm. And when did you take this self-awareness about the benefits of chess and decide, I'm going to start bringing it to others beyond myself?
So help me to understand your question again.
So I imagine so right now you are spreading the game through the Gift of Chess program, but I imagine you were spreading the game in whatever facility you were in before you were hooked up with the Gift of Chess. Is that a reasonable guess on my part? Oh,
most definitely. That's true. Yeah. So I would play chess all the time. I mean, you would catch me playing chess. If I wasn't playing chess, I had my chess, the modern chess organ openings, MCO, my big MCO book opened up, and I'm learning new openings. I didn't quite understand what those annotations meant, but I knew how to move the pieces according to that particular chess opening. And so I'd have my book out and I'd be writing these moves down because it was a book that I had to check out from the library. So if it was an opening that I really enjoyed, one that I really liked, one that I felt that would give me the advantage over my opponents, I'd write it down in my own journal, and I would keep it that way I can continue to go back to it. But people would pass by my cube and see me. Eventually, I started writing a do not disturb sign up because chess is so fascinating. It's so interesting that when you got a chessboard laid out and you're studying on your own, people want to come by and they want to ask you what you're doing or what you think you could have did on that move, and that disrupts your thought. But you don't want to be rude or dismissive. So what I end up doing, I made a do not disturb sign and I put it up, and that allowed me to really focus and concentrate. But what I'm saying, Dan, is that as a result of that, people saw my passion. And so they wanted to play chess. They wanted to learn more in chess, and they sought me out. And before long, right now at our facility, we got chessboards laid out, and it's just a chess buzz, a real strong chess vibe that goes on around the facilities. And that's been in every facility I've been at.
And how did you end up becoming connected to the Gift of Chess program?
So this is a remarkable story as well. So my brother, who lives in New York City, in the year 2000, he was called up to a modeling agency, and he went up there, and he's been living there since 2020 plus years now. While living in New York City, he met a fellow by the name of Russell Makovsky, and they became really, really good friends. And my brother shared my story with Russell over the years. Russell never got a chance to meet me until I came here, and me and my brother would talk on the phone. And one of those conversations, we talked about chess, and I bragged about how good I am and how I love the game. And he said, "Oh, you think you're that good, huh?" He said, "I know somebody who knows about chess." So he called him on three-way, and me and Russell met for the first time. And before long, we were playing chess every day on the phone. And he would call, and I'd set my board up where I'm at here in the facility, and he'd set his board up there in New York, and he'd call out moves, and I'd make a move for him on my board. I'll call out a move and make a move for me on his board. And over the time of doing that, we developed a rapport. We developed a relationship, and I gave him an idea that I had in prison, and it happened to coincide with a project that he was working on creating. And so he said, "I'm the man for the job." And he said, "How would you feel about being the director of our prison outreach, where we distribute these chessboards in prisons to give them the same skills and opportunity that you presented for yourself?" I said, "Man, I'm all for it." And we've been real cool ever since. Like that's my guy, Russell Makovsky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's definitely someone who's been making a difference in the chess world of late. I'm thinking not just of the Gift of Chess, but him bringing Tani Adewumi to the world.
Yes, and so one of the first things he did as we got built a greater relationship, he sent me that book where it talked about Tani, and I read all about that fascinating story. It was a miracle how he got out of there, Boko Haram and everything. It's such an inspirational story. I've shared the book with others. But I will say this, along with just talking and playing chess with Russell, he has been an extension of my rehabilitation process. Chess has been the key ingredient in my rehabilitation process and my proactive thinking and my discipline to say that I'm not going to go back to where I once came from, but I'm going to take what I have in front of me and make the most of it. And sometimes that rubs people wrong because I'm so passionate about what I want to do and where I want to go. I've been down for so long. I've hurt so many people, and I want to make a difference that far exceeds the amount of hurt that I've caused. And if chess gives me that opportunity, then I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. And so Russell has been an extension of my rehabilitation. He's rolled out the red carpet, as well as Secretary of Corrections Jeff Zmuda, our Captain Oneth. They've been so supportive of me. And while it may just be a game, this is a life-changing situation, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. I'm thankful that you give me this opportunity. I'm just so excited, man. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a compelling story. So I'm enjoying learning about it and learning about you. Um, is there something about the game of chess that you think makes it uniquely beneficial to people serving time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, there's so much. Um, there's so much. You know, me and Russell, I've said this once. I told Russell, I said, we're going to win a Nobel Peace Prize. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, listen, penicillin was found by accident because a scientist was working on a cure for a bacteria. He got so frustrated, he sat it on the shelf, even went on a vacation. When he came back, the mold from the outside had blew in onto the bacteria, and he saw that it was killing the bacteria. I said, that's what's going on in prison today. We have these chessboards all over the prison because our activity specialists, they buy different games and puzzles and basketballs, but no one has directly correlated the two, how important chess is to helping us develop thinking skills, decision-making skills. It is a healing salve that is sitting right there before our eyes, and we don't even recognize just how the two relates. We have a healing that can heal those who are impulsive thinkers, that are irrational thinkers, that are reactionary people right there in the prison through the game of chess. They play it and they just have fun, but they don't understand that if you play this long enough, if you truly hone your skills, develop your thinking and decision-making, problem-solving skills, and then take it from the game and apply it into your life, you will be a different person. You will start seeing success. You'll start seeing yourself accomplish goals, and you will develop a sense of confidence and self-esteem about yourself, because people are so down on themselves because of the problems that they committed in their own lives, the problems that they've committed against society, and where they currently are situated. But that's not the end of it, the end all to end all. You can rise up out of that situation and make a difference. And me going around the different facilities with the blessings of Jeff Zmuda, our Secretary of Corrections, is a prime example of that. And I feel as if I am making a difference by giving this opportunity to chess to those incarcerated. They know me. I spent 20 plus years in Kansas Department of Corrections. Many of the guys know me. If they don't know me, they know of me. And so when I go and I speak about how important chess is and how they correlate to your life and how you can use the skills and change, they listen and they understand completely, because I'm the living example for that. I live right there amongst them. I was in the trenches with them, Dan.
You know, I how they would listen to you and accept it, but do you have any experience or any stories of people who heard you speak but were really suspicious of, hey, just a board game really make that kind of difference in my life? But then they started and became a believer in your message?
Well, I can't say that they've ever voiced that to me per se, but being in prison and jail, one of the things that you do over years, you learn to read body languages. You become emotionally intelligent to where you can pretty much read if someone is interested in what you have to say or not. And there was a gentleman at the most recent facility that we went to who I knew on personal basis. And when prior to me speaking, we would talk, I'd meet him off to the side and we talk about prison stuff and, you know, where is so-and-so at in the prison? Is he still in jail? Or, you know, just prison conversation. But then once I start talking about chess and the importance of it and how it changed my life and how it can change theirs, his entire body language was like, I'm not listening. You know, I don't have anything to, you know. But when we were talking about nonsense, he was all ears. All his attention was to me. But once we got on this, so I wouldn't say no one has voiced that to me personally, but their body language has conveyed that thought to me, that maybe they weren't as interested or as believing in the theory that this can change your life. So,
when I spoke to Secretary Zmuda earlier, he had mentioned a statewide championship that's currently being contested. Could you tell me a bit more about the mechanics of that? How do you do a statewide championship with people who are incarcerated?
Hey, it's a big deal right here in Kansas because you got a lot of guys who think that they're the top dog in their facility at chess, and so this helps us to have an official chess rated tournament. We have chess clocks, we have chess boards. United States Chess Federation has given us their blessing and backed us with providing memberships for these residents. And so we go to all, I want to say about 9 to 10 facilities, and we conduct a 4-round Swiss tournament. And the guys are excited about it because we have these clocks that they're not used to. They're not used to playing with clocks. Sometimes they forget to hit the clock, but as a tournament director, I'm right there and I instruct them on, hey, don't be afraid of the clock. The clock is only there to help you learn time management skills. So that's another skill that I didn't mention earlier, is that the clock allows for people to learn time management skills, taking their time and making the most efficient use of their time. So they're excited about the tournament, 4-round tournament. We look for a first, second, third, and fourth place winner. At the end, we take a picture with our statewide coordinator, Captain Oneth, and then we put those names to the side so that in June, tentatively, we will have an intrastate tournament where we will have a tournament hosted on the platform chess.com. Those are our plans and works. It hasn't been solidified, although chess.com has given us their blessing that this is a possibility, a strong possibility, and we believe it will happen. We just want to make sure that we have all 4 winners from every facility that will represent that facility, and then we'll host the interstate tournament. So that was phase 1 and 2. Now phase 3 is something that I proposed to Russell McCoskey. I have not yet proposed it to Secretary of Corrections Jeff Zmuda, but we have what's called different programs throughout the department that allows for what is called a program credit to be attached to that program. These programs are in place to help men develop rehabilitation skills that will better them on their release. But the program credit is 120 days upon successful completion will be knocked off of their sentence. So we at the Gifted Chess would like to have a chess program implemented in the Kansas Department of Corrections with the science, with the medical studies, and the data that backs the importance of chess, the benefits of chess, and allow upon successful completion of the program that 120 days can also be knocked off of their sentence. So that's unprecedented, and we hope and we look forward to with great confidence that it can happen.
You know if there's any other programs that have a similar sentence reduction that's applied to it?
Yeah, so we have substance abuse program, what we call SAP, that also has a program credit attached to it. Those who have drug and alcohol addictions, they can go to this program for amount of time, and at the end of it, upon successful completion, they get 120 days knocked off the sentence. We also have a program called cognitive, it's called a T for C, Thinking for Change. It's a cognitive behavioral program where you learn how to think before you act. You learn how to make wiser and more intelligent choices that is conducive to your rehabilitation and to your growth. And that's why we believe if T for C can be a program, how much more can chess be a program? Because chess is all about thinking. It's a thinking man's game. One thing, Dan, if you ever got a chance to visit one of the prisons, is when you go in, it's super loud. It is so loud because there's rambunctious, hyper energy activity going on. But as soon as you lay those chessboards down on the table, and you can hear a pin drop. It becomes an academic atmosphere. And it dawned on me at our first or second tournament how we can change these prison environments into academic atmospheres by offering more programs, by offering more educational opportunities. But chess programs in prison is the gateway to that. That opens up the door for all these other things. Well, right now, when you look at prisons, Dan, you perceive that we're going to come out of here bigger and stronger and more aggressive, and because that's what you see proposed on TV. That's what's propagated on TV. That these prisoners, they come in, they lift weights, they get big and strong, but for the most part, that's true. That's what men do when they come in here. Brawn is celebrated over brains. And so what we're trying to do with chess, being the gateway to open up the door for thinking, intelligence, decision-making, problem-solving, will be an academic learning atmosphere, will be celebrated more, than the brawn idea of being able to lift weights or play basketball.
So what are your plans once you're fully released, and does the game of chess figure into those plans?
Most definitely. I will be playing the game of chess for the rest of my life if it's up to me, which it is. And I will also be a part of any Department of Corrections for the rest of my life, whoever allows me to come into their facility. Dan, I spent so much time, so much of my life in these prisons and jails and facilities that I understand the ins and outs. I understand the position of the staff, they're short-staffed all over the state, if not all over the United States. I understand the positions of our correction counselors. I understand the positions of those in administration. I understand especially the situation of the inmate population and the stressors and the pressures that they're up under. And I believe that I can be a catalyst for change there, because I've been there, I've done that, I lived it. And as a result, as Russell tells me, I have developed a unique skill set that allows me to resolve these problems. And so my goal is to, once I'm released, with all the support that I have throughout the country from those that support the gift of chess, Russell McCoskey, Tom Harvard, just to name a couple. My goal is to be hired full-time with the gift of chess. I have a job already waiting on me there. And also hopefully I'll get the blessings of our Secretary of Corrections to be coming back into this facility and Department of Corrections, continue to conduct these chess tournaments and chess programs. I do have a lot of people who've reached out to me throughout all the country who are willing to become volunteers in their respective states and do programs there. And my goal is to also travel to those different states, launching the gift of chess programs in these prisons, so that I will be more hands-on with this project, not only in the Kansas Department of Corrections, but in other departments as well. I reached out to New York Department of Corrections. I recently gave them a proposal to start a program there. South Carolina Department of Corrections, Nebraska's Youth Department of Corrections, Oklahoma Department of Corrections. I've spoken with all of those personally, and we've hosted events there. Unfortunately, we had to use volunteers. I wasn't able to actually go to any of those events. A couple of them allowed me to come in via Zoom and speak about the gifts of chess that you can learn from playing the game. But yeah, so upon my release, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be traveling, promoting the gift of chess and as a program in prisons.
So is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want our viewers to know, whether about yourself or the program?
Well, what we do like to let other people know out there is that a Salvador Mundi was a painting that was restored, and it was eventually sold for over $450 million. This is one of the paintings, I want to say, that Leonardo da Vinci made, and it's a remarkable painting. I think Salvador Mundi means savior of the world, but I say that to say this. If someone can spend over $450 million to restore a painting, how much more will we invest to restore the lives of the broken, the lives of those who made some bad choices in their lives? Right now, it takes $5 to get a chessboard to these men and women in these prisons throughout the United States. $5 can change a life. If we can have someone come alongside us and give us their support financially, give us their technical support, their leadership, organizational skills support to help advance this initiative, then that's what we're calling upon. We ask them to come alongside us, partner with us in this initiative, and help us to move it along in a strong manner. So yes, that's what I would leave everyone with. And thank those who've also opened up the door, like the United States Chess Federation, Carol Myers, yourself, Dan, chess.com, those who've helped us to expand this initiative, Ben Johnson, and those that have been supportive of us thus far. Thank them.
Can't speak for all of them, but from the U.S. Chess Federation, you're certainly welcome. This is definitely squarely within our mission.
Well, Dan, I will say this. I wanted to add, one of the things I tell them when I go to the prisons and I promote the game is I say that chess, what we're doing in this partnership with the United States Chess Federation, that it allows them not only to continue their rehabilitation while they're incarcerated, because now being members, they can play in correspondence chess games, which would keep them out of trouble, which would help the staff not be so overwhelmed by having to manage them. But it also allows them to, as an extension of their rehabilitation, to give them access to tournaments upon their release, access to chess tournaments to where they can go and play games in their leisure time. As we all know, they say idle mind is the devil's playground. But if you have chess tournaments that you can attend and participate in, that's an extension of their rehabilitation. So.
You made I really been turning in my head since you mentioned the penicillin connection. I thought that was a very clever thing. I was wondering if the term chessicillin works, or am I really pulling too hard there?
Oh, that's nice. I love it. Chessicillin for sure. Most definitely.
So Tony Ballard, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for what you're doing. You're one of those people that's truly changing not just your own life, but other people's lives. And that's a wonderful thing to do.
Well, I want to thank you as well, and you, United States Chess Federation. Your show has been really great. Watching the show with Maurice Ashley, that's very inspirational. He's an inspiration in itself. So yeah, thank you for what you're doing. Continue to do a great job, and hopefully you'll be able to do another interview down the line and see how it released. And I've continued on with this.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, joining us now is Captain Kevin Oneth. Captain Oneth began his career with the Kansas Department of Corrections in 1991. He has specialized training in such areas as EEO, sexual harassment, supervisory, FBI crisis negotiations, Kansas Bureau of Investigation fingerprint identification, mental health first aid, domestic violence, and crisis intervention team training. He is a team member of the Southeast Regional Crisis Negotiation Team and the Kansas Department of Corrections statewide coordinator for the gift of chess. Captain Oneth, welcome to One Move at a Time.
Thank you very much.
So let's kind of just set the stage here. Why don't you describe your main day-to-day duties in the Department of Corrections, but then also include what your duties with the gift of chess are.
Okay. My day-to-day, I'm the administrative captain here at the Wichita War Police Facility. I'm the head of security here. We do have a chief of security down in Winfield, but I handle the day-to-day operations here. I have various different tasks. I also perform as the emergency preparedness coordinator, the disciplinary administrator, evidence collection and processing, a multitude of duties that's administrative in nature that that doesn't detract from the security officers having to do work on the shift. So I kind of like a jack of all trades, I guess. As far as the gift of chess, in February, I was asked to become the KDOC statewide coordinator for the gift of chess, and I accepted it. Secretary Zmuda asked me to do that. What I do is handle all the logistics of traveling to all the facilities. I'll create the agendas, I'll create the flyers, I'll do all the pre-planning for the trip preparation. I'll actually escort Resident Ballard to the events. We do this setup. I'm also a tournament director, so I handle all the computer work with the computer program and entering all the information. And then at the end of it, then I send all the information to Russ for incorporation or upload into their system.
I didn't realize you were a tournament director as well. That's very cool. Did you have any experience with chess before taking on this coordinator position?
I grew up playing chess. I probably started chess when I was in 4th or 5th grade. Really loved it then. I do have some memories back in high school. I do remember that during my 9th grade math class, I had a math instructor named Mr. Corbin, and he was also an avid chess enthusiast, and we would end up after any work was done in the during the period, we would play chess. And then when at lunchtimes on certain days, and I'd go down to his office and we'd play a game of chess. So I learned a lot from chess from Mr. Corbin back in probably 1979.
Mm-hmm. And when this program started, and when you were asked by Secretary Zmuda to take on this position, did you have any particular concerns about how effective or if there were any realistic chances for success with such a program?
Not that. My biggest hesitancy since I was just starting the role, I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what my roles were. I didn't know what my responsibilities were. And so I was kind of hesitant about that portion, just not knowing what was required of me. But after I had talked to the secretary and then later with Russ, we kind of laid everything out, and it's actually gone pretty smooth at each facility.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed any direct behavior differences in offenders who have participated in this program?
It's funny you mention that, because when we get to a facility, what we do is we'll set up, and then about 15 to 30 minutes later, they'll call the inmates out and they'll come out and sign in. We'll have a centralized desk where they come in to check in, do paperwork for their free chess sets, do media releases so we can take their pictures. And the looks on their faces when they come in is like they're very hesitant, very reluctant, really not sure if this is happening, because it really hasn't happened within our state before like that I'm aware of in my 32 years. But they really don't, they have that hesitancy that this has actually happened. So they kind of have, like I described yesterday to one of the guys, that they have a deer in a headlight look. They're really confused and not really sure what's going on. By the time the event is over, they're clapping, cheering, thanking both me and my whoever went with me, Ballard or another person. I had guys, we did an Ellsworth event yesterday, and I had guys coming up to me, multiple inmates coming up to me, shaking my hand, thanking us for what we've done. And then I've actually had several of the same people coming up to thank me like 2 or 3 times. So it's pretty cool. They're the change from when they get there, from the time that they leave the event, is like it's a total 180. They go kind of the hesitancy to big smiles on their face, and especially when we present them with the chessboard, it's like they received $1 million. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much appreciation they have in receiving just the gift set.
So that's a pretty remarkable story. You've been with Department of Corrections for a long time, back to 91. In your career, have you seen any other kind of program that compares to this?
No. This is the first I know of. I mean, There may have been something I'm aware of, but in my observations, I've never seen a outside agency partnership with the DOC in doing a chest event like this. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen it.
Well, what about not even an outside agency? Is there any program that was generated within the Department of Corrections itself, whether it's a sports event or a academic item that caused such behavior modification in the people incarcerated?
It's hard to say with me being in security the whole times. There's a lot that I haven't observed in the programs area, but I have observed from kind of the outside area. So I really couldn't say yes or no on that, but really in my observations, I really haven't seen it.
Okay. And is there anything else you want our viewers to know about the Gift of Chess or anything about the Department of Corrections?
It was great starting a partnership with the Gift of Chess. They have a great mission. I think it really collides with our guided framework and our mission statement. There's a lot of things that they kind of meld between the Gift of Chess and the Department of Corrections guided framework. We just kind of a lot of those same beliefs are within there, so we kind of support each other that way.
Well, Captain Kevin Oneth, thank you so much for joining us here. It was interesting feedback on the discussion that I've already had with Tony and Secretary Zmuda. So thank you again.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
You bet.
So joining us now is Secretary Jeff Zmuda of the Kansas Department of Corrections. Secretary Zmuda was appointed by Governor Laura Kelly to lead the Kansas Department of Corrections and was sworn in on February 5th, 2020. Prior to joining Governor Kelly's cabinet, Jeff spent nearly 32 years in service to the Idaho Department of Corrections. More than half of that time was spent in leadership roles as both the organization's deputy director and chief of prisons. In these roles, he coordinated with stakeholders across the state and played a key role in the operations for 9 state-run facilities, including public safety initiatives, security protocols and practices, mental health care and treatment, education services, and reentry programs. Jeff also has extensive experience addressing personnel and operations challenges across a correctional system. He is also a firm believer that while offenders are serving their time in prison, the department and staff should be working hard to equip offenders with the resources and skills they need to be successful upon their reentry to the community. With that in mind, he has made improving reentry services and workforce readiness among inmates one of his top priorities. So, Secretary Jeff Zmuda, thank you for joining us on this One Move at a Time podcast.
Thank you, Daniel. It's great to be here with you. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm curious, just to get right off the bat, how does chess fit in with your goal to improve reentry services and workforce readiness?
Yeah, a couple of things, I think. First of all, we're always looking for opportunities to help our resident population be motivated towards change or to better themselves. That's part of our charge. You know, we have that incarceration piece, but we also have a piece of our mission is to help people change, or at least provide them the opportunities to change. And with chess, it's an activity in a couple of ways that helps that population. One, it's an activity that is in a positive vein. It occupies their time in a positive way and gets them thinking about maybe how to occupy their day, maybe motivate them in their personal life on how to be working towards positive things. And then when they're actually engaged in playing chess and other activities, but particularly chess, I think chess really helps them discipline their mind and their emotions. A lot of our population are having impulse control issues, and so they act out without thinking. And playing chess, I'm not an avid chess player, but I don't think you can be impulsive in chess and be very successful. As they play chess, and the more they play, I think they get a sense of, to be successful, you have to be disciplined and you have to think things through and anticipate what's coming. And I think over time that translates into other aspects of their life, whether it's substance abuse or anger management issues or just criminal thinking in general. So I really see that for those that get engaged as being a positive aspect for them. And then for our workforce and our staff, it really creates a different environment for us in our facilities when we have activities such as we have gift of chess here in our facilities now. And it just creates a more positive environment in that correctional setting and really can set the stage for our staff to engage in those conversations to help guide and direct our population. For instance, if we have a resident who's involved in our gift of chess activities, it might come up in conversation with a staff member who also has an interest in chess or has some experience with it. And it creates a bit of a dialogue and a shared experience that can start conversations to help that person. So just really see a lot of positives that can come from it.
Boy, you almost sound like an evangelist for our beloved game here. So thank you for all those positive things that you said about the game of chess. And so I'm wondering, since you said you didn't have much of a personal history with the game, did you have any particular concerns before putting this program into place?
No, my concern was, and it really wasn't a concern, it was more of a hope that we could engage our population. When you bring something new in and maybe people, our population are unfamiliar with it, sometimes there's a hesitancy to get engaged. There's not an understanding of what we're doing, but I have been very pleasantly not surprised, I guess, but just been really encouraged by the amount of engagement as we've gone from facility to facility and starting the program there. We just see more and more of the population. It's built kind of a synergy, if you will. There's a buzz out there, and we've just seen a lot of participation, just some great events. That was my only concern was, could we get the population engaged? And we've certainly accomplished that.
So as it's generating buzz, has that extended to other states? Have any other states have expressed interest and contacted you and said, hey, we see something interesting you're doing there. Can you help us get this started in our state?
Yeah, great question. I haven't had any interest from other states up to this point. And I think that point will come. We're running a statewide tournament and it's being sanctioned. I think it's by US Chess or the International Federation of Chess. And I think when we've kind of completed that tournament over the next few months, and as we put that out to the public and whatnot, and I engage with my peers, I think that'll be the opportunity for people to say, oh, wow, you did that. Oh, and how did that go? Then I'll get questions. How did that go? And what were the positives to that? And then that I think that'll be the jumping off point for other systems.
And, whenever you're in the public eye, there's always going to be, people on the other end of the spectrum. Have there been critics of the program? And I'm thinking especially about people who feel that prison should only be about punishment.
Yeah, I'm unaware of any critics of the program. Our philosophy is our population is sent to prison as punishment, not for punishment. And as I referenced earlier, part of our obligation to our communities and our citizens is that incarceration piece, to take people who have harmed others and segregate them from our communities. But right there alongside of it is we're charged with trying to rehabilitate people, giving them those opportunities. About 95% of our population is going to return to the community one day. Whether that's 2 years after they were initially incarcerated or 25 years, 95% are coming back. And normally they return to the communities which they lived in prior to their incarceration. And I think people are people in the community are gaining a better understanding that they're going to be our neighbors. People coming out of prison are our neighbors. They're maybe our coworkers. Maybe they attend the same church. Their children attend the same schools. And so I think there's a greater understanding that if we help these people, we provide these opportunities, give them an opportunity to become a better person than they were prior to their incarceration, that benefits those folks. So short answer, I don't know of any criticisms we've had about what we're doing with CHESS in our facilities. And I really anticipate some real good support for it as the word gets out more and more.
What other opportunities for offenders are there that are kind of on an equal footing as CHESS?
Yeah, we have we have a myriad of different opportunities. We have a group here in Kansas, Arts in Prison, that comes in and works with our population, and whether it is drawing, painting, choir, whatnot, opportunities like that really lift the spirit of our population, provide hope and encouragement, and really, much like with CHESS, just let that incarcerated population know that there's people out there in the community that haven't forgotten about them, that they still have value. So we have programs like that. We have great work preparation opportunities. A lot of our population doesn't have a lot of good work experience, very little work experience. So we have 40 private industry partners. We have about nearly 2,000 of our population that are working in those, earning a good wage. They're able to pay their fines, fees, restitution. And so that's encouraging. We have a great post-secondary education program. We have 10 colleges here in Kansas that have helped us form the Kansas Consortium for higher education and corrections. We have post-secondary education opportunities, whether that's a technical certification, whether that's an associate's degree, in some instances, a bachelor's degree. We have those at every one of our adult facilities here in Kansas. Certainly, we have programming that helps for cognitive thinking and change, substance abuse programming. We have a great faith-based volunteer groups that come in and invest a lot of time into people that are incarcerated with us. And all of that, you never know what quite is going to appeal to someone to help them have that moment that they decide to change and motivate them to change. So bringing as much of that activities into our facilities gives us a better chance of reaching folks and helping motivate them and getting them on the right path.
Mm-hmm. No, that all sounds very positive. Is there anything else about the Gift of CHESS program or the correction system in Kansas in general that you want our listeners to know about?
Well, I'm thankful that we have our partnership with the folks from the Gift of CHESS. They reached out to us and they've just been a fantastic partner. It's created some excitement within our population. It's such a positive activity where people get recognition for their efforts, and just an uplifting event. And so I look forward to an ongoing partnership and just continue to expand the program here. I'm really looking forward, really excited about what's going on to this point, really looking forward to the future with it.
Well, Secretary Jeff Zmuda, thank you so much for joining us today on the One Move at a Time podcast.
Thank you, Daniel. Great to be with you.